They gave her the spotlight. They gave her the title. But what they really gave her was a trap. Katniss Everdeen wasn't just a hero. She was a pawn. A poisoned pawn. This is part 2 in our Poisoned Pawn series, where we look at characters who were used by both sides of a conflict, turned into symbols, manipulated for power, and then discarded when they were no longer useful. In part 1, we looked at Cyril Khan from Andor, a man who thought he was climbing the ranks, when in reality, he was being played by the Empire and the Rebellion. But today's story is different, because unlike Cyril, Katniss Everdeen knows she's being used, and eventually she fights back. But first, let's review the concept of the poisoned pawn. In chess, the poisoned pawn is a tactical trap. You offer up a piece that looks valuable, easy to take, but when your opponent grabs it, they fall right into your strategy. In storytelling, it's when a character becomes a symbol, used, manipulated, and made to look powerful, when really they're just being moved. When Katniss volunteers to take Prim's place, she enters the Hunger Games as a symbol of self-sacrifice. But she's not supposed to win. District 12 tributes never win. The Capitol expects her to die early, a noble tragedy. But she surprises them, first with survival skills, then with rebellion. When Rue dies, Katniss doesn't just grieve, she performs a funeral, a direct insult to the games themselves. And when she threatens to eat the Nightlock berries with PETA, she forces the Capitol into a lose-lose scenario. Either let them both die, or break their own rules. They choose to play along, but Snow doesn't forgive disobedience. He reframes it. Katniss wasn't rebelling, they say. She was just hopelessly in love. The Capitol spins her into a romance icon. The dress, the parade, the interviews, it's all spectacle. She's still on the board, but she doesn't control where she moves. And by the time we get to Mockingjay, the Capitol has lost control of their pawn. But now the rebels claim her. And what do? They slap the Mockingjay pin on her chest and hand her a script. President Coin doesn't trust Katniss, but she needs her. So she turns her into a weaponized symbol, a rallying cry for the rebellion. They film her in carefully staged propaganda videos. They assign her handlers. They even control her wardrobe again, this time black instead of flames. But Katniss starts noticing the patterns. When PETA is used as bait, when she's assigned a star squad, a unit of camera-ready soldiers who are secretly not expected to survive. She realizes Coin is using her just like Snow did. The two sides aren't so different. One tried to kill her to keep control. The other tried to worship her into obedience. But here's the twist. Katniss learns the game. She agrees to be the Mockingjay, but only if Coin lets her hunt. She improvises speeches. She demands PETA's rescue. And then, at the moment of supposed victory, when Snow is finally defeated, she does the one thing neither side expects. She shoots Coin. It wasn't out of revenge, but out of clarity, because she finally sees the whole board and chooses to end the cycle. The poison pawn works when the player stays blind, but Katniss Everdeen was never blind. She was surviving. And when she saw the game for what it was, she made the only move that mattered. She stopped playing. They tried to make her a symbol, but Katniss wasn't fighting for power. She was fighting for freedom, and that's what made her so dangerous. But not every pawn ends their story like Katniss. Some never gain awareness. Others break under pressure, and a few are sacrificed by design. The poison pawn shows up across genres, and depending on the story, it plays out in very different ways. Take Harvey Dent in The Dark Knight, who is a calculated sacrifice. Gotham lifts him up as the city's last hope, knowing full well how fragile he is. And when he falls, his tragedy is used to justify the system's own darkness. He's the pawn who was never meant to make it to the end. Anakin Skywalker is a shaped pawn. From his earliest years, he's groomed for prophecy, pressed into roles, and constantly manipulated by competing ideologies. The Jedi want balance. The Sith want power. Anakin thinks he's choosing his path, but every step is guided. He's the pawn who becomes a king, but only on someone else's board. The poison pawn is one of storytelling's most deceptive tools. It hides power inside powerlessness. It turns characters into symbols and then asks, what happens when the symbol fights back? Whether it's Katniss, Cyril, Harvey Dent, or Anakin Skywalker, the pattern is the same. It's just one way stories move pieces across the board. In future videos, we'll look at other tools writers use, like false protagonists, loaded choices, and narrative sacrifices. Because when you understand the pieces, the whole story opens up. I'd love to hear your take. Who's another great poison pawn in storytelling? Maybe someone who saw it coming, or someone who never did. Drop it in the comments. And if you want more breakdowns like this, subscribe and stick around. We've only just started opening this literary toolbox. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.